Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with my most carried for January, February 2018. I've got a couple of things here that are not knives. Normally this is mostly knives and it still will be, but every once in a while I try to throw in a couple of extra things that I'm enjoying. One of the things right now is the Olight M2R Warrior. I gotta say, this is a pretty nice light. I will do a full review on it in the not too distant future. Now, the one qualification I will make here is that this probably isn't gonna be for everybody because of the fact that it's a fairly large light, but if you're like me and you wear like 511s or any kind of cargo pants a lot of the time, even in a pair of jeans, I find this clips nicely into the back pocket without too much of a challenge. Anyway, I've been carrying it quite a bit and really liking it, and so I wanted to throw this into my most carried. The days that this is really too big, you know, maybe when I'm going to church or something, then something like this little Olight S Mini works well. The other thing I thought I'd throw in here is the Gerber center drive. I've got to say, I've been pretty impressed with this. Now, I've been wanting to pick one up for some time, and they finally came down to a price that I was happy with on Amazon. When they first came out, they were like 140 bucks. Now they're like 100 bucks on Amazon.ca. I will put a link in the description box down below so you can check that out for yourself. And if you buy it through that link, that does help out the channel a little bit. Anyway, let's move this stuff out of the way. I guess I'll put links to these as well. I think these can both, this may be gone, but I'm sure this and this can both be had on Amazon. I'll put that in the links down below. But those are the couple extra things that are not knives that I've been carrying. Now let's go ahead and get to the knives. First off, let's talk about one that's a little bit different. This is the Bark River Tusk in A2. This is a new knife for 2018. And I gotta say, guys, this is a pretty nice little fixed blade, really utility style, working style knife. Look at the blade stock there. It's pretty thick. That Warncliffe style blade. I've been using this quite a bit, you know, for box cutting, all that kind of stuff. It works really, really well. This is a knife that, you know, and being a fixed blade, it's just a workhorse of a knife. And I've been enjoying it, and it's small enough that it carries pretty comfortably. Since we're doing that, I wanted to pull this one out as well. This is the Bark River JX6. That's the Chris Tanner design knife. I actually have a first impressions on this, and the sound did not work out. I've been playing around with my sound a little bit, and my experiment when I recorded this video did not work, so I may re-record it in the next couple of days and put it up there. But for now, the first impressions on this is kind of dead in the water. Anyway, suffice to say, I do like this. I've actually been carrying this quite a bit since picking it up, and it's probably a little more versatile than the Tusk. And you know, Chris Tanner puts a lot of hype behind his designs, and it's a lot of them are sort of, you know, you love them or you hate them. This one, I don't think it. I think this is a little more versatile, and I think most people are going to be drawn to this one a little more. Certainly, I have found it pretty darn good. So look for. I will. You know what? Let's go ahead and say I will try to get a first impressions up on that knife. Just give me a few days to get that. So sometime this week, that should post. Now we're finally ready to talk about folders and talk about the folders that have been in my pocket the most often. First up is going to be the Inkosi. This was a knife I got, and I honestly wasn't sure about it. I knew I wanted to try it out. I was curious about it, and I just, you know, it's one of those knives where I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to love it. I liked the 25, but it wasn't like my favorite knife in the world. This I have absolutely enjoyed and still do. So I've got to say, this finds itself in my pocket a lot of the times just because it feels like a knife that, you know, pretty much any day, whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm wearing, wherever I'm going, this knife is suitable. And that's where I think this knife really, really shines. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a suit or a pair of jeans, driving a truck or a backhoe or, you know, a Lexus. This works really well for just about every situation that you could imagine. So really, really nice knife. And I have been carrying a few other Thai frame locks. Recently, I took this knife down and oiled the pivot up a little bit and cleaned it up a bit. And I've got to tell you guys, that is something that if you don't regularly sort of give some love to your knives, take them down, clean them up, get everything running right, that is well worth your time and energy. This thing, you know, it was still pretty good, but I had noticed when I was flipping it that I had to put just a little more effort into flipping it every time. So I took it down, cleaned it up, and it's smooth as silk again. And that's always something, you know, with ball bearing pivot knives, that's always something worth considering, that you may want to touch them up from time to time. In fact, not may want to, you will want to. If you're not comfortable with taking your knife apart, you can, you know, take some forced air and blow it through there, clean it out with any good cleaner for oil. You know, WD-40 is not the best, but it works. Just remember, that's not a lubrication. You've got to add lubrication after you're done with it. So that may be an alternative for those of you who really don't want to take a knife apart. Another knife that I've been carrying recently and that I have taken apart and cleaned up again is this knife. I got a great deal on this knife, and I've had this before. I do have a review on it already, and I've got a couple other videos that have it in, but one came up for sale at a pretty good price, and I just couldn't pass it up. It's such a cool knife, and from a collection standpoint, it's really, really nice. You know, not a lot of let's say this, I wouldn't recommend this to every single person. You know, if you called me up or you sent me a message and said, I want to buy a zero tolerance, which one would you recommend? I probably wouldn't say the 0055. In fact, I know I wouldn't. Okay, if you called me up though and said, I've got a lot of nice knives, I really want something different and interesting to kind of keep some versatility in my collection, yes, then I could recommend this without a doubt. It's very well put together. And again, this was a knife that when it came to me, it was, you know, less than stellar in terms of the action. I took it apart, cleaned it up, put it back together, and like I was saying about the the swish there, this thing is now smooth as silk and just really flips nicely. And you got to give ZT credit, guys. One, for making this knife at all, and two, for, you know, for getting this GTC design so right. They really did a great job, and they've allowed, you know, sort of regular people like you and I to have something from Gustavo Cecchini, which is not an easy thing to do for anybody. So it's really, I like that ZT did that. The other knife, and I think this has been in these videos more than any other, this is my Riat Knives Torrent. I love this knife, guys. And, you know, the longer I have it, the more I love it. And I was recently, you know, conversing with someone made a comment on my original review of this knife. I need to re-review it, I think, because that original review I did before I was doing the top-down version like this. Anyway, someone commented on it, and we had a little discussion, and it reminded me again of how awesome this knife is. And, you know, I find this to be just one of the most perfect, all-around, very high-end titanium frame lock knives. You know, if you really want to experience just about the best of the best from what high-end production standards can do, this is absolutely right up there. Everything is just dialed in. The blade is a beautiful shape. It's a wonderful combination of function and form. The lock bar tension is just right. The detent is snappy. The action on this, the smoothness on that pivot is fantastic with that dual row ceramic bearings. It's just a great, great knife. And I feel like I've been a little unfair with giving that one a little more love than the others. Let's go ahead though and move on to another knife. This is an interesting knife, guys. This is the Manly Comrade. All right, these guys are made in Bulgaria, and I have emailed back and forth with Manly a couple of times. I emailed them on this knife, and they have a lockback knife coming out, and I'm hopefully going to be getting my hands on one of those for review. They're not widely available right now, but let me just say that this knife is really, really well done. If you live in an area where, you know, you're not allowed to carry a locking knife, or you have to carry a two-hand opening knife or something like that, or even if you just want to try a slip joint, you know, this is kind of, you know, maybe you're not going to buy a case knife, but because you're too familiar with all of the stuff you're used to from your typical modern folder. This is sort of a nice transition knife. I think it's a great gift knife. It comes in a bunch of different colors. There are all kinds of variants available. They can be a little hard to come by. I think Lamnia has them in stock pretty much all the time, but anywhere else, it's a bit of a crapshoot where, you know, you can go on Blade HQ on any given day and they won't have them, and then a week later they will. But Manly Companion, pretty interesting little slip joint, and it's designed to be a slip joint that is very hard to close on your fingers, okay? That's what they were essentially trying to make, a slip joint that would be legal just about everywhere, that you could carry without getting in any kind of trouble, but it would still pretty well do all the jobs of a modern folder without you having to make too many sacrifices. And so that's why the back spring is so stiff, and that's why there's so many blade stops. You can see all the blade stops there. They were trying to essentially make a non-locking knife that you could get as much utility out of as a locking knife. Next up, let's pull on the Manix 2 Lockback. This is a knife I find myself carrying a lot around the house. If I'm going to the gym for a workout and I'm wearing sort of light pants like track pants, or I don't know what the material is, but you know, those Under Armour pants that are really thin material, great for working out in, but kind of suck for everything else. If I'm wearing something like that, I'll put this knife in my pocket, and it's so lightweight that it carries really well and doesn't make any kind of a problem for those kind of thinner, lighter weight pants. Finally, let's go ahead with the Benchmade Crooked River. This is definitely my favorite Benchmade. It's one of my favorite knives. It's just big and yet comfortable. It carries easily. I love the blade shape. I love the design. And someday I am going to have carbon fiber scales for this knife. They've been ordered for a long time, and we'll talk about that when I finally get them on and can share a whole video about that with you. There you go, guys. So let me throw a few more knives in here as we finish things off. Let me know how the sound works on this video. As I say, I'm still experimenting with a couple of different options in terms of mic placement and even lighting a little bit. I'm adjusting, so bear with me as I kind of figure that all out. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.